ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your first video over exponents. If you have a textbook, it's in chapter 7, section 1 in the textbook. This is day 1 of 6. Here are your goals for coming away from the video. Remember, you're not going to be a master of this information, but you're going to be introduced to it. You will become a master in class. Identify the base and the exponent of an expression. Demonstrate exponents using expansion. Make conclusions about exponents by using patterns. Simplify expressions that have zero and negative exponents, and discover why anything raised to the zero power is 1. Alright, so what does all this mean? Alright, first of all, I have underlined, I have the base, which is 2, and I have the exponent, or the power, which is 4. And if you notice, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2's. And I have a 1. Now the 1 is what we call a multiplicative inverse. The multiplicative inverse. That means anything times 1 stays the same. It's like adding 0. It does literally nothing. It's like a placeholder. So 4 times 4, I get 4 from 2 times 2. And then I have 2 times 2 here to get 4. I get 16. 5 to the 6. Now 5 is the base and 6 is the exponent. So that means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 5's and my multiplicative inverse, which is 1. I multiply all these together on my handy dandy calculator. Work smarter, not harder. I get 15,625. Alright, now let's talk about patterns, alright? So, what can patterns tell us? Well, it tells us a lot about exponents. Because 2 to the third is 2 times 2 times 2 times the 1. The 1 being the multiplicative inverse, the 2 is the base, 3 is exponents. Well, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Because 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8. Do the same thing for 2 squared. Multiplicative inverse, my base and my exponent, base, power. Now here's the funny thing. When I go 2 to the 0, what am I left with? Well, I'm left with 1. The 2's disappear. If you look, 0 is the power, and I have 0 2's. I don't have any. But I do have a 1 because it's the multiplicative inverse. Now notice what happens with negative exponents. Negative exponents are pretty cool because they actually invert it or make it a reciprocal. And we can't have negative exponents. They're not any fun to do it like you just can't have them. And so whenever we simplify something, they have to be a positive exponent. So what happens is I invert negative 1. That means 1 over 2 times 1. I get a half. And the pattern's holding up pretty solid here. Once you hit the 0 power, notice here in the middle, it hits that 1, right? Well, what happens? Well, everything gets flipped. It gets inverted. It's really cool. Now, the cool thing about this is I start with a fraction and then it ends up being a whole number at the end because of the negative exponents. Notice here that this is the base and this is the exponent. 1, 2, 3 2's, 1 over 8. 2 2's is 4. 2 2's, or excuse me, 1 2 is half. And then as I go and I make a negative exponent here, ooh, that's not good, so I got to flip it. Notice the pattern is the same. If this were letters, just replace this with an X. or A or whatever. You'll see it. You can see it in class, and when you do your homework tonight, hopefully you go out and search about exponents on Google, and no, you will search out, and you need to find a website that has great exponent information to share with us. All right, simplify 2 to the negative third is 1/8. We've already done this problem. It's in our patterns. Now here's one of the trickier ones. See these parentheses? That means that 3 is negative. That 3 is negative. So I write negative 3's on the bottom. Remember our multiplicative inverse or identity, multiplicative identity, and that's a 1. Multiplicative identity, 1 over 81. All right, now this guy is, think about it like this. Whoops. Think about it like this. Where I've got to do this stuff first, and then I have to put the negative on at the end. All right. Here's my bald eagle and my sandfly. Sandflies are itty bitty. Eagles are much bigger than sandflies. And a raven has an average wingspan that's the difference between the two. And 4 squared is 16. 5 to the negative 3 is 1 over 5 times 1 over 5 times 1 over 5, which is 1 over 75. Then that's feet. So if I use my calculator, I first must do this. I got to find out what that guy is. 1 over 75. I got to subtract it from 16. I'll show you that technique. 16. Let's do this. 16 minus 1 over 75. If you have a handy dandy calculator, it makes it easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And you should get 13.98. Alright, now here's my bonus. Okay, let's talk about this. First, I am always working left to right. I always start with a fraction bar. Alright, so to do this problem, I always start with that fraction bar. And that is really important. So what's going to happen now is this 3, it doesn't have an exponent written, so I put a 1 with it. So 3 to the first. And these are being multiplied. These are individual bases. 3 to the 1 is going to stay exactly where it is. It's 3 over 1, so it stays right there on top. It doesn't move. Y negative 2 gets inverted or flipped. So I go y squared. And that is my simplified version because there's no negative exponents. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I start with my fraction bar. I start with my fraction bar, and I start in the top left-hand corner, 3 to the negative 2. That's a negative exponent, so that means I got to invert it. So I put it on the bottom here, and I get 9. That's done. See ya. It disappears. A to the third has a positive exponent. It stays exactly where it is in the fraction. B to the negative 2, it's in the bottom, but because it has a negative exponent, I got to bring it to the top and make that exponent positive. I have this simplified. I have no negative exponents, and that was my goal. Now, for homework, you must search Google. You must find a pretty good website that we could use as a resource for exponents. If it has stuff on there that we haven't talked about, that's good. I want you to read it. You may not understand it. That's okay. Because what's going to happen is we are going to talk about it in class. Also, you must bring these notes completed to class next class period. So you're going to get half credit. You get 50 points. Half of your credit is finished notes from my video, and the other 50% or half comes from that website that you're going to put in the Google Doc. If you don't do half of it, you only get half credit. Ladies and gentlemen, you will not be an expert at this at the beginning, but I guarantee you, if you work hard enough, you will do well. Remember, give your mom and dad, whoever's taking care of you, a big old hug and tell them that you love them. I'll see you in class. Be good.